One of the things your character says in the play is it's when he's responding to accusations of trespassing on Mr. Crawford's land. He says it might be his land, but it's still my country. What do you think he means by that?
Our land was taken away from us, yeah. There's no doubt about that. It's been part of a native title dispute for a long, long time. It's all about when the fence actually started being put up, it started blocking us from utilising our traditional practices. My dad and I used to hunt in the bush. We used snares as well, similar to what they're talking about there, where a snare is a piece of wire and you attach it to a fence and you catch kangaroos when they sneak through into the paddocks from the bush to go and get a feed of grass every night. My old man, he was born in 1916. He became a citizen of Australia through citizenship back in the 40s. And so that gave him certain rights to walk down the street after 6 o'clock, because other Aboriginal people weren't allowed to walk down the street. You'd have to be off the street by 6 o'clock at night, and you couldn't purchase alcohol. And there were a whole stack of restrictions, because it was really quite a racist piece of legislation. On one occasion, he told me about when he was walking down the street with his citizenship card in his pocket, and the police stopped him and Mum. But Mum didn't have citizenship, you see, because she was a woman. And the coppers searched Mum's bag, and which really offended Dad, because they sort of were baiting Dad to react. So they searched her bag, and Dad objected to it and apparently got arrested for telling the policeman to go away in some other terms.
Yeah.
But this whole story is about the effects of racism on people that come back who've served in the World War. And what happened, I was born in 1958, and we received citizenship in Australia in 1967, and that basically gave us the right to be counted in the census and the right to vote. And so a lot of the legislation that inhibited us from being part of Australian society was taken away. But when we grew up, it was certainly quite different. And there were different attitudes towards our people. But I've seen gradually a change over the last 20 odd years since the abolishment of the White Australia policy in 1974. We changed some legislation, and Australia started to change because we had Vietnamese people and other people coming in of different colour and race into our Australia. And then we had this multicultural feeling of Australia's migration. I studied as a teacher to become a teacher back in the 90s, and I studied the social studies syllabus that was taught in schools, and it had very little content of Aboriginal content in it that was being taught in schools at that particular point in time. This was in the mid-90s, so I had to pass a unit of social studies knowing that the document that I had to research and know backwards had no content of our culture and no real content of our history and our the archaeology related to our culture and the length of time we've been here. So it was whitewashed, so to speak. And then in 1997 they threw the syllabus out, and then they introduced another syllabus that did have a lot more Aboriginal content in it. And it was interesting because we now have a syllabus that does contain more information about our heritage and our culture, and dating right back to 60,000 years ago. We have certain cities in our country nowadays, like Melbourne, for instance. You go to Melbourne nowadays, and it's filled with the multiculturalism of a society, and it's really a nice place to be because you're not isolated, and you're not. We fit in because there's so many different diverse communities there and cultures there that we fit in. Whereas a few years ago, we were just the minority in a dominantly white society that was oppressive and had been oppressive for about 150 odd years. So things have changed.